everyone, it's Marie here and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm making a fun little card using some stencils and other items from Scrapbook.com. So here's where we're headed. This is the card we'll be making today. I'm making a second one that looks pretty much the same, but I'm using some slightly different colors and a different sentiment. So to get started with this card, I'm grabbing this stencil from Scrapbook.com. This is their Little Rainbows stencil, and I think it's just really cute. It's full of rainbows. It's got some cute little hearts on here, and I'm just going to add it to my card front. So when I use my stencils, I generally like to tape my card onto the stencil, and I'm putting tape on the back side. And this will just allow me to work with the whole front of the card with whatever I'm using, inks or any other mediums. And also when I take my stencil off and I take that tape off, it'll be on the back side. So if it does rip at all, it won't be on the front of my card. So I'm also grabbing a bunch of different Scrapbook.com inks here. These are hybrid inks. I'm grabbing a rainbow of colors that I'm going to be ink blending onto this stencil. Now these little rainbows are small, but they are spread out enough that you can selectively ink blend each one. So I'm just using a Scrapbook.com ink blending tool and adding different colors to the rainbows. So I'm starting with pink, and I'll be moving through the rainbow colors here and just kind of randomly filling in the rainbows, trying to make it so that the same colors aren't next to each other as much as possible, so it looks a little bit more random and a little bit more pleasing to the eye. So I've got my pink on there. I'm moving on to my orange cream, which is a lightish orange or more of a yellowish orange, but I think it's a really pretty color, and I'm just going to fill in a few of these rainbows here as well. I'm also trying to avoid getting any ink in those little hearts because I have something else I'm going to be doing with those after I get my rainbows filled in. And after my orange, I'm moving on to yellow. Now this is their color Rubber Ducky, and I love this yellow color. It's so bright, and I find myself using it a lot. I never thought I was too much of a yellow person, but I've been really into it lately. I found that yellow can really mix well with a lot of different colors and make a lot of bright, happy shades on your cards. So I've been using that one quite a bit. After my yellow, I'm going to go ahead and move on. I'm taking my sky blue, which is a light blue, and I'm going to ink blend a few of these rainbows here as well. Just again, selectively ink blending a few of these little rainbows. Now I think it would be really fun if you had a really tiny ink blending tool to kind of blend each of the little arches of the rainbows selectively and make a multicolored rainbow. I think that would be a little more tedious, a little more time consuming, but I think it would be worth it and be really cute. Now, like what I said, I'm going to do something different with these little hearts here. I'm taking some of my black hybrid ink, and I am just going to make black hearts. I think the black really pops with the brighter colors, so I wanted to get a little bit of that onto my card front, and by adding some little black hearts, it's just going to make it pop without completely overwhelming it. So here I just went ahead and pulled off my stencil. You can see how cute this background is all by itself. But I'm going to do some stencil layering. I'm going to put another stencil on top of this. So I'm grabbing the Little Clouds stencil. I think these two stencils were just made for each other. They go together so well. And I'm just leaving that tape on my card front and taping my stencil back down. And I'm actually going to be using some Altenew Embossing Paste. Now this is like a modeling paste or a texture paste, but you can use your heat tool with it. I'm also using the Scrapbook.com craft scraper, and it's got these fun little quotes on the back of the packaging, and I just like to read them and kind of giggle a little bit. I think that's a really fun thing for Scrapbook.com to do. Now, since this scraper is a little bit bigger than the embossing paste jar, I used a little media spatula to put some on the edge of my scraper, and then I'm just using it to cover the front of my stencil. I really love this scraper. This is the first time I've used it, but this kind of makes me feel like I'm frosting a cake or something. You can just really fill in all of those areas very quickly and scrape any of that extra back into your jar. And I do have to say that this scraper cleans up really easily. I just used a baby wipe and wiped off all of that paste. And if you don't have a baby wipe, you can also take it to your sink and wash it with some warm soap and water. So you can see that my scraper is pretty much cleaned off. I'm going to go ahead and hang it on a hook on my wall because it's got that handy little hole on there that you can hang it up. And I'm just peeling my stencil off my background, and you can see how cute this is already. But like I mentioned, you can heat up this paste with your heat tool, and it kind of puffs up a little bit. So I hope you can see that on the screen, how it's puffing up a little bit. It does shrink down a little bit as it cools, but it still gives it some really cool texture. Now, if you wanted to emboss with this, you can sprinkle on a little bit of embossing powder, and the powder will bubble up as it melts, and it gives it a really cool effect. But I just wanted some white fluffy clouds in front of my rainbows. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next part of my card. You can see here, I'm going to have this card sort of matted on a light gray card base. But before I do that, I want to add a little bit more fun detail to the background. So I've gone ahead and cut lots of little strips of cardstock. And I'm just going to go ahead and take my ink pad right to the cardstock to color it with this ink. So now I know it's going to coordinate perfectly with my little rainbows. And I can make little strips on my background to make another rainbow in the background, and it's going to be really cute. So I've got my first strip done. I'm going in with my rubber ducky and just putting some yellow, or is this the orange cream? That one's orange cream, this one's rubber ducky. And I'm just going through all of my rainbow colors, just inking up these little strips here. Now, in between each strip, I did wipe off my glass mat because I didn't want any other color kind of blending in. I wanted these colors to be crisp and clean without any other colors kind of blending together there. And once I have them all done, you can see I'm just kind of arranging them on my background. And I'm going to take a little bit of glue and just glue them each into place. And I want to make sure that they're evenly spaced. So this glue gives you a little bit of wiggle time. It doesn't dry immediately, so you can kind of move things around, but it does dry fairly quickly. So I tried to move through this somewhat quickly, make sure everything was evenly spaced, and then I went ahead and trimmed it off on the back side. So you can see here I'm just making sure everything is in place, moving my little strips around, making sure they're even. And then I'm going to take a pair of my long scissors and just trim off those little strips. Now you can save these strips for another card if you wanted to make several of them at once. So I did set them aside and made sure I saved them in case I wanted to make another card in this style, or you can use them for a different card design if you want to. So I have all of my little rainbow strips adhered to that bottom corner, and I'm just going to pop up my rainbow panel right on top of there using some foam adhesive. Now for the sentiment, I've die cut a little pink heart, and I'm using a sentiment from Scrapbook.com's Cards for Kindness stamp set. Now this stamp set has a few little images. It's also got a lot of sentiments that are great sentiments. More of a general sentiment that you can use for just thinking of you, hello, happy birthday, thank you type cards. So it's a great little set to have in your collection. So I've got my sentiments in place here. I'm going to take some more of that black ink, just ink them up and go ahead and stamp this out. I have it mounted in my MISTI because a lot of times when I'm stamping my sentiments or images, I want to make sure I get a really nice crisp black impression, and a MISTI will help you do that. It keeps everything right in place so you can stamp several times and fill in those little gaps if it didn't stamp perfectly the first time. So I'm adding this heart with some more foam adhesive to the front of my card, and that pretty much finishes the card. I am going to add a little bit more glitz at the end here, and I'll let you see that in a minute. But here are my cards side by side. You can see one I've done a little bit more of a pastel muted shades of color, and the one I did today is a little bit brighter and more rainbow feeling. Now I love these little cards, but like I said, I'm going to add a little bit more glitz and sparkle using a glitter brush pen from Scrapbook.com. And when you first get this pen, I wanted to show you how easy it is to get it started. You'll see there's this little bright green ring on your pen. So you want to screw your cap off and remove that. And then go ahead and screw your cap back on. Just twist it on as far as it'll go and then pop the cap off. And I always like to give at least one more twist to make sure that cap is all the way down. You can see on the side it says push. So to start your glitter flowing, you're going to want to push on the side a little bit out. And I always do this on my glass mat, just in case I get a little drop coming out. It'll fall onto my glass mat and I can pick it up with that brush and add it to my card. So I'm putting some of this sparkly glitter brush pen onto my little stripes that I put on the background. And I've had a few different brands of these sparkle pens, but I think this one wins for the sparkle factor. I think this is the most sparkly one that I've worked with, and I really love it. It really adds some fun and pretty shine to those rainbow stripes in the background. So I hope you loved a look at today's cards. That's all I have for you. I've got these 2 cards and these rainbow designs. I hope you like the little clouds and little rainbow stencils from Scrapbook.com. If you did, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Comment if you have any questions or comments. Make sure you tap that bell for notifications and subscribe if you haven't already. Just do all the things. Thanks for stopping by, guys. I'm so glad that you've come by to see these rainbow cards, and have a great day. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.